I just want to come to you because you're passionate about multiple things, Ujjwala scheme being one of them. But you're also an outsider. You're not a civil servant by training. So, as somebody who's working in that capacity in the ministry, what kind of advantages slash disadvantages do you see in having such an outside-in approach for governance?
When I was asked to come work for the ministry, it just happened per chance. It was a few conversations where I was talking about Ujjwala and how this was 1 year, a little less than a year since Ujjwala was launched in 2016. And we were discussing about how Ujjwala has sort of broken the access barrier and put women at the center of India's energy policy. What didn't seem to be working at that point was that how is adoption going to take place? Because breaking the barrier is just the first step. And it was heartening to see that the government was open to ideas. It was open to the proposition that this is the first step. Instead of just sitting back and lauding itself and saying, okay, we're going to go and give these 8 crore connections, we will do much more is what they said. And that's when they sought help from experts, specialists such as me and many others in my team, and said that let's come up with a framework where we can go a step further. We will not just give all these women LPG connections. We will go a step further and think about what are the barriers that prevent them from using these gas cylinders. What are the factors that prohibit them from sustainably using them over the years? Cost is just one of the factors. There's so much more that goes into the process of behavior change. And I'm so glad that the government is fast recognizing, and I think Urvashi would agree with me, you know, behavior change, whether it's about health, whether it's about education, it is a gradual and very, very slow process. Given the best of conditions and the kind of diversity that India presents, it becomes even more challenging. So it is heartening to see that the government is really opening up to the idea of independent people such as me coming in and bringing our focus of gender, bringing in our focus of development. I'm a purely development person. I just have like 1 year of experience in the corporate sector, which I failed at miserably, and I was like, I can't do this. So since then, my education has been social work and economics, and I've been very focused on working on development, but one thing that I struggled with was scale. Because any development intervention, whether you look at the non-profits that are working, small projects that are working, replicability is always an issue. And working with the government, you get the scale. You get the resources to replicate models, to try new things. And yeah, I think it's great that these doors are opening and more people like me can enter the government and try and impact a little bit of change here and there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Pranjal, you write, I've read a lot of your articles, even your book, which I thoroughly enjoyed on the 4th Industrial Revolution. I'll come to the specifics of what your recommendations are, but let's start with broad strokes. In the past 5 years, and you've been a writer for 20 years plus now, in the past 5 years, what are some of the positive and negative shifts, I'm talking broad strokes, that you've seen which are different from, say, the norm?
I think the most important platform that this government has been able to do is to use technology for delivery of government services, which I think is very important because technology brings you accountability, efficiency, and transparency. And our government systems over the previous many decades since independence have miserably failed in delivery of whatever the government has to offer. And I've always believed that India is not a poor country, it's a poorly managed country. And the poor management comes out of the fact that we don't have the governance systems, partly because they're corroded and they're overly process-oriented, partly because of distrust that the government system has of the society because of our colonial issues, which we have not been able to resolve, but mostly because we were very dependent on archaic systems. And I think this effort of using mobile technologies, which is used so often that it's become a cliche, but I think you cannot undermine the importance of what has been achieved. You know, using mobiles for opening banks of 300 million people in the last few years is a tremendous achievement. No country across the world has managed it. And I think one of the things we must understand for India, especially for development and economics, is that you cannot have a solution which has been used abroad for India. India has its own unique issues, and therefore a model which is created for India is going to be developed in India. It cannot be something which is important. And I think, therefore, the use of mobile technologies, and now, you know, I work very closely with the World Economic Forum's Fourth Industrial Revolution Center, and Prime Minister himself inaugurated the center a few months ago. The new projects which are coming up of using drones for ensuring that agriculture productivity come up is fantastic. You know, the pilot projects are being run with the government of Maharashtra, where drones and sensors embedded in the soil are going to give you the kind of information that farmers need for planning the next crop. Now, this kind of use is completely unprecedented, and you are now looking at mid-level of bureaucracy, lower bureaucracy, interdepartmental coordination, which is now going to happen and has to happen for things like these to succeed. So, I think that has been a tremendous achievement of the government. What I think the government has not done enough of is the piece on education and skilling. I know the skilling initiative started even with the previous government. There were several issues with it in terms of the model. I won't take away from what they have achieved, but I do think that this government should now focus on how should people live in the world of the fourth industrial revolution. I think that piece, in terms of equipping us for a completely new world at a scale which no other country has been able to think of, is the real challenge today.